So Peacemaker had been originally published by Charlton Comics, and he did not have his own. This is their first appearance. They are a pair of runaways in New York City who get... Hi, I'm Glenn Simpson, and I've collected comics for over 40 years, and I'm showing off my collection one box at a time. Today we're looking at box number 120. We're going to continue our way through the Outsiders and then make our way through the rest of the O's and then get into the P's. We're going to have some Paradise X, some Peacemaker, and then we are going to get into the beginning of Peter Parker, including Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. So it's going to be a good time. Please like and comment and subscribe. Those are all great things for the channel. I really appreciate it. But for now, hey, let's get going with box 120 here on Glenn Simpson's Comics. Okay, picking up where we left off. See the previous video for the whole explanation of the Outsiders, but leave it to be said that Batman formed a team, and they broke off from him, but actually, as we get to issue 17 of Outsiders, he's coming back. So, issue 17 of Outsiders through issue 20 here. We've got issue 21 there through issue 24. Of course, this was coming out when Ronald Reagan was president. And so, you talk about the sliding timeline and some of the things that you have to ignore. And, who is president at the time is one of the things you have to ignore if they show the actual president. Issue that. Oh, that was Erik Larsen, by the way. That's a Jim Aparo cover, but we got Erik Larsen on interior art. I guess people maybe, I don't know, do people underestimate how much DC art Erik Larsen did before moving to Marvel? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Issue 25. We have, given who's missing from this list, we have a cured Metamorpho, temporarily. 25. And 28, more Erik Larsen. Final issue. There you go. They had an annual Kevin Nolan cover there. They also have a special, and this is one of those times when the alphabetizing is a little, weird, because the special won't show up for a little while, but you just got to pick your rules here. So then they kind of retire the concept a bit until 94, or actually 93, but by 94, so the series is around by the time you get to 0 Hour, so they get a 0 issue. We've got Faust, son of Felix Faust, the JLA villain. We've got the Eradicator, who was a Kryptonian artifact who kind of takes over, and he winds up taking over a human and bringing him back to life. I think a dead guy, and bringing him back to life. Another dead guy, not like Superman. But we still got Looker and Halo and Wylde. Maybe just W-Y-L-D, Wylde, I think was his name, as members this time. No association with Batman. But the series actually launched with issue 1, but there were two number ones. There's I think Alpha and Beta or something. and the had covers with Travis Charest and interior art by Paul Pelletier. So it was a pretty series, definitely. So this is one version of issue 1, but they were both, I think, different stories. It's not variant covers. It was actually different stories. You needed to get both of them. Right there. And then it gets into more of a normal thing. Pelletier doing the covers as well. Got Katana going up against Azrael Batman. There. Issue 9. If you watch my previous videos, you'll know the thicker the pack, the less, super valuable the books are, but it's, always good reading. Or mostly good reading. Issue 9. Issue 16. The ladies. Issue 17. The Terra from the Team Titans, who had come back from the future and then wound up kind of being the only member remaining to join the regular New Titans, meets up with Geoforce, who's of course her brother. She's 17. And then the book starts to sell worse. We lose the bigger name artist. Get somebody named Ammerman. Get Brett Levins. Or Rick Levins, rather. There's Brett Blevins and Rick Levins. So, and that's kind of hard to remember sometimes. Right there. Issue 20. Somebody named Casey Jones doing art. Eradicator, Steppenwolf, as seen in the Justice League movies, or movie. 24. Jim Aparo comes back, inked by Klaus Janson, and that is the end of the Outsiders for a while. So then we get to 2003, and they decided to kill New Titans, and they kind of got split up amongst there was Young Justice. They just basically went to Outsiders, and so you had Nightwing leading the team. You have the introduction of the previously unseen daughter of Black Lightning. We've got Grace, who we're meeting for the first time. Jade. Roy Harper becomes another, Arsenal again. And we got Shift, who is... He thinks he looks like Metamorpho, but he doesn't remember being Metamorpho. And so he's kind of a new character, if you will. What's her name? She's after the color of her skin there. I can't remember. Anyway, issue 1. They were young. They were sexy. Blah blah blah. Issue 4. I don't know what was outsidery about them, but whatever. Issue 4. Bringing back Brother Blood. Bringing back Brother Blood. Issue 5. Got Chris Cross doing interiors. Here. Bringing in Huntress. Here. 9. Black Lightning shows up. He's like, man, what are you doing putting my daughter in danger? I'm going to come in and keep an eye on you guys. Little feature on Jade, Dan Jurgens' art. So, back in this period, 04, you had a TV show, America's Most Wanted, where it was kind of an early version of the true crime, genre, and John Walsh would take you through the facts of a real crime where somebody probably was been kidnapped or whatever. And in a weird bit of crossover, the Outsiders team up with John Walsh in the DC universe to track down one of the, solve one of the cases that he would have, the type of case he would have introduced. There. Indigo. There you go. So spoilers. Indigo, not good. Actually a offshoot of Brainiac. Don't look at the fact that she was kind of cute. Oh yeah, there. 24. Issue 25. Still fighting Indigo. 32, we get into, Starfire, also a former New Titan, has joined up, and is, they are collectively dealing with Blackfire, getting into Infinite Crisis, all kinds of good stuff. We lost Judd Winnick as the writer, Jan Van Meter, so we're trying to find our way here. Continue. We've got some Marvel family hanging out with them. This is back for those of you newer readers. Maybe it went back in the day around about this time. You really only had Billy, Mary, and Freddie were the only Marvels. So that they were kind of trying to differentiate them a little bit with the white and the yellow. Red and white and blue. Issue 33. By 40, Winnick is back. Winnick pretty much, I guess, didn't want to participate in the Infinite Crisis stuff. I think we've got, actually, this is, was that? No, this is the same daughter of Black Lightning. Anyway, issue 40. Issue 41, Spotlight on Grace. Through 50. Make sure I'm saying this right. Yeah. 50, we've got a return of Batman to the Outsiders concept, and so I think they're kind of changing it. They changed it back up. Back in way a few videos ago, when we were looking at Batman and the Outsiders series, you can kind of compare and see where they picked up and that kind of thing. Although that's going to be a bit more pertinent, I think, in the next series. So that's issue 50, which is the last issue of that version. They had an annual. there. Black Lightning, looking very Cage-like with his chains. And okay, so yeah, as I was saying, so there had been a newer Batman in the Outsiders series, and then I think part of Batman R.I.P. he died, so then Outsiders continued without him. This iteration they had created a new Owlman, who was a new character, the son of a previously existing character. We got straight up Black Lightning, we got Creeper, Geoforce, Katana, Metamorpho. Issue 15. We just kind of have some beauty covers on a lot of this, which is fine. Black Lightning and Geoforce. That's a good one if you're an old school Batman and the Outsiders fan. Issue 18, Creeper, Metamorpho. Now those are some Outsiders right there. Unfortunate Fingerprint. Blackest Night. So Blackest Night started off as a Green Lantern event, and it bled out into the rest of the DC universe. So previously deceased DC characters were coming back to life, and so of course that would include Terra, who is Geoforce's sister. 24. 25, continuing that. Through 28. Our boys get on the wrong side of each other. We've got Dan Didio writing. Some disagreements. We've got Looker. So Looker had been basically a telepath, and then she at some point got herself bit by a vampire, and that, you normally in that situation you'd expect it to kind of clear up after a few issues, but she stuck it stuck, they stuck with it. Decided that a combination vampire telepath was kind of a cool thing, which I don't necessarily disagree. Issue 29 through 36. It's kind of a beauty cover. So we're in 2011. We're about to get to the New 52. We are somewhat coasting. Issue 37. We've got this big fight with Doomsday, who is tied into the Eradicator, as in terms of Kryptonian stuff. 37. And we finished the series with issue 39. There was one issue, issue 40, jump back to Batman and the Outsiders, and then that was it for some reason. So back in that other video, you got this one stray issue 40. That's just that's the title. Alright, and then a few years ago, we had this Outsider series with Batwoman as a headliner. We had Tim Fox, who had been Batwing and will be Batwing some in this series, and a new version of the drummer from the Wildstorm stuff, which I am not as familiar with, but I will. There's one thing I will say about this in a sec. And their goal, I was kind of excited about this. Their goal was I thought they were going to be exploring the multiverse, and they kind of did. They just explored parts of the multiverse that nobody cared about. So that was the problem. But issue 1 through issue 6, right there. issue 7. I'm not sure when it happens. Let's look at issue 11 first. And yeah, I guess this is where this, I don't know when it would happen, but there's I'll use this as a visual aid. There's the so you find out that the drummer is a different character that you already knew from the Wildstorm universe, and this is one of those times it comes up every once in a while where the fact that one artist, you can't just tell, like for the most part, you can't tell Superman from Bruce Wayne without the spit curl maybe, but for the most part, you know, you can't tell Superman from Bruce Wayne just because some artist, you know, they're not distinctive. There was another story where Donna Troy, Wonder Woman was running around doing things, and then you get to the end of the story and you find out it's Donna Troy and not Diana, and you wouldn't, and you know, if artists could draw distinctively in comics, then there wouldn't have been a mystery there, because you know you would have been able to literally tell, you know, the two people apart who are not supposed to look exactly the same, but given that, you know, comics art is not quite detailed enough sometimes to tell people apart, other than hair color and things like that, facial hair, things like that. So this was another one of those where if you had been reading, if you know, you were, they give her, they say, oh, this isn't really drummer, this is Chiquita, somebody who you knew from the old thing. Well, that wouldn't have been a mystery if we, you know, could have recognized her just by her face as being that other character. So just a funny thing I notice that happens sometimes in comics is they take advantage of the fact that the art isn't detailed enough to tell some characters apart or recognize a character just by their face. Anyway, enough of that. That Nightwing-led Outsiders decided to have a membership drive or whatever, and they had these one-shots where one of the two was going to continue on into the Outsiders. So, and there's it's a series of one-shots. This is Nightwing versus Captain Boomerang Jr. right there, and the rest of them are in there. And we also had Wonder Woman and Grace, which obviously Grace wound up being the quote-unquote winner. That doesn't necessarily mean they won the fight. So now we jump back to original Outsiders, and we have this two-part team-up with Infinity Inc. If you go back to the video that would have included Infinity Inc., you'll see the other side of this crossover. Psycho Pirate is involved, kind of taking advantage of the fact that they're all on the same Earth now, and actually both the Outsiders and Infinity Inc. are on the West Coast. So it was pretty easy to get them together, unlike pre-Crisis, when you would have had to have a, you know, multiversal kind of thing going on. Alright, jumping out of Outsiders, we got Over the Edge, which was kind of a brand. Marvel Edge was a brand at Marvel, like, it's grr, it's tough, it's street. And they also were doing this 99-cent thing where they're putting out comics that were less expensive, and they did not do all that well, which is a sign that just lowering the price does not necessarily translate into higher sales. So Over the Edge, #1, it's kind of an anthology, issue 1 here with Daredevil. issue 5 with the Punisher. There, good, you know. So B-list in some cases, artists and writers and stuff, but it was only 99 cents. Issue 6, okay. Claw, shoot sound. Daredevil has sensitive hearing. And I guess it had a lot of Daredevil. Daredevil was pretty popular at the time. So it even had a popular character. But it ended at issue 10. Poor sales. We have this Greg Horn cover rather, of Oz-Wonderland Chronicles, being put out by Buy Me Toys. So this was an independent series. I think I just found this in a dollar box, and the Greg Horn cover caught my eye, so it came home with me. But I think there was a whole series of this. I didn't get it, but that's that. Then we have Oz-Wonderland War. So back in the day, you'd had the Captain Carrot and his Amazing Zoo Crew series, and then somebody decided to bring it back, and they came up with before that, they came up with the idea of having Oz and Wonderland, the classic literary environments, go to war, and the Captain Carrot team get caught in the middle. And I think it was going to be like a 6-issue series, and they wound up doing it as 3 issues, double-sized. So and it's technically just Oz-Wonderland War, so that's why it shows up here in the O's. So there you go. That's issue 1 through issue 3. E. Nelson Bradwell, Joy Cavallari doing the writing. So there's no Scott Shaw on here, interestingly. And Carol Lay doing the artwork. Alright, so welcome to the P's. The first thing we have in the P is not really a comic, it's a magazine. It's a Pacesetter. It's just a magazine. Back in the day, before we had websites, we had magazines, and this one is dedicated to the entire. Every issue of Pacesetter is dedicated to George Perez. So you would think, as much as I love George Perez, I would have every issue, but I don't. Maybe I should. We'll see. We'll look into that. But I got this one autographed at New Orleans. I can't remember if I got. I may have bought this one already autographed. I can't remember whether this was one of the things I got him signed at New Orleans or not. But anyway, there you go. The Pact. I picked this up out of a dollar box at some point because it's like, ooh, superheroes. But it wasn't that good. Didn't inspire me to put the rest of the issues on my want list. The Pact. Then we get to Paradise X, which I believe is the 3rd in the trilogy. There was Earth X, there was Universe X, and Paradise X. And it's a bit hard to follow. It might be easier to follow if you read from A to Z, or 1 to 12 or whatever. But it was a lot of beautiful Alex Ross covers with a story inside of taking place in the far future of the Marvel Universe, and you've got people from the dead, from the realm of the dead who died, coming, fighting a war on their side and coming back, and it's a bunch of stuff. But it's Alex Ross covers. Let's just face it. that's what we're here for. So this is issue 0 of that. And we have issues 1 right there with the Guardians, the old school Guardians of the Galaxy, who are in the future. So since this was the future, makes sense. Through issue 8, Old Man Doctor Strange. We got issue 9, got Iron Man 2020, got Deathlock, also from futures, not the same future necessarily. So it's kind of it's like Crisis on of Infinite Futures. Through issue 12, right there with the Thing. I've bought this in, I haven't bought this in order, so I honestly, there's one shots, I don't know what order to read them in. We got Paradise X Devils. There. Got Paradise X. Well, this is a prelude, so there you go. Heralds. So again, some of the future characters being drawn together. Wolverine from Days of Future Past. Heralds 3. This is, I believe, Machine Man. After a series of progression, we got Kill Raven from a future where, actually, he's from a present, really. An alternate present? Maybe no, he's from a future. Yeah. Lots of different Marvel futures. Paradise X Ragnarok. Thor. Two. There. Paradise X, number X. There's a tie-in with Marvel in all this. Paradise X Zen, Xen. I believe it's combining Chinese mythology or whatever culture with the X-Men. So there you go. You see, it's kind of like your Colossus, There. All right, then we jump over to Parallax. So this is the final kind of special that ends the final night event that so a Sun Eater is eating Earth's sun, and it's put the Earth in in darkness, and it's slowly dying. And Hal Jordan, who had gone nuts when Coast City was destroyed, and gained infinite power, comes back and reignites the sun, but gives his own life in that, to make that happen. He then becomes the next Spectre. He's the Spectre for a while, but then eventually in Green Lantern Rebirth, he comes back and resumes his somewhat normal Green Lantern-y life. There. Then we have Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat. There's two series. There's Patsy Walker Hellcat and Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat. So I think we'll see. Maybe I don't think I think I've got the trade of Patsy Walker Hellcat, but Patsy Walker, aka Hellcat, had this George Perez variant cover, so hello, had to have that. There you go, right there. Good, looking good. Issue 1. I'm working on getting the run of this. I happen to also have issue 10. I think I have another issue. It's like sitting on the bedroom dresser waiting to be read. 1 or 2 issues. They just didn't quite make it in yet. All right, and then somebody who was nothing to speak of and now is kind of a big deal, Peacemaker. So Peacemaker had been originally published by Charlton Comics, and he did not have his own series there. He was in like Our Fighting Five or something like that. Then when the Charlton characters were bought by DC, he showed up. He's probably in, Crisis on Infinite Earth somewhere. He would have been, he is the character that the comedian was based on for Watchmen, with that sort of, because it's a similar, the idea of somebody who is murderous, but they have a funny name, or so their name doesn't match their behavior. So since he's like, a guy with guns, but he calls himself Peacemaker, in the same way that the comedian was not a funny guy, But so then the DC really starts using the regular Peacemaker in their Checkmate series, and he during that time gets this 4-issue series. In this version, he only really has the one helmet, and his Nazi father lives in the helmet, which of course at the time, this was, the 80s, you could have a father who was an actual Nazi, original OG Nazi, he was, the spirit of his father would talk to him through the helmet and tell him, he wasn't doing the right thing or whatever. So issue 1 through issue 4. Right there. And I don't hate the Peacemaker, TV movie version, but the haven't been a big, necessarily feel like I needed in comics. So Penguin Triumphant. In any other world, this would be Batman Penguin Triumphant, but by golly, it's just Penguin Triumphant. So there you go. I guess I'm also not a big fan of, so like anti-heroes, few and far between. Villain series where they're the main character, few and far between. So but this was a one shot. It kind of came out around the time of the second Michael Keaton Batman movie. They did a one shot for each of the villains there that were showing up there. So it's got this gorgeous cover right here. So good stuff. Good stuff. Then we have Peter Cannon Thunderbolt. So Peter Cannon, similarly, is the character that Ozymandias is based on in Watchmen, but and he actually, he's kind of a Charlton character, although I think the ownership is different or something, because even though DC owns the Charlton characters, they don't necessarily own Peter Cannon. They've got somebody else still owns him. So you'll see other Thunderbolt usage elsewhere other than DC. I'm not sure exactly what Pete Tomasi, I believe, owns that. So just gotta kind of, but DC took their shot, and we've got issue 1 through issue 6. He's a guy. He went off to live with monks, they taught him how to fight. So he's there, and he then left to come back to the world and fight bad guys and stuff. She's 6. She's 7. There. And this one ended with issue 12. Alright, and so everybody's spider sense is going off. We are entering the world of Peter Parker. So, we begin with this series from a few years ago that is literally just named Peter Parker. And it is just, it's a bit of a series of, a little short series of Spider-Man stories, if I remember correctly. Issue might have been set in the past. I'm drawing a blank at the moment. Issue 1 through issue 5, right there. Might have been trying to secure the trademark for Peter Parker. Maybe. I don't know. We have Peter Parker and Miles Morales. Spider-Man, Double Trouble. Long title. There. Maybe trying to cash in on the Spidey and his amazing friends craze, popularity. Issue 1 through issue 4. Fighting Thanos, as you do. Get to Peter Parker Spider-Man. So this came out in '99, and if I remember correctly, the one confusing thing is that, so you had the Todd McFarlane series that came out in like '90 that was just Spider-Man, which we'll see eventually, and then towards the end of that series, after McFarlane had long gone, they started putting Peter Parker Spider-Man on the cover, but it was still, you know, in the indicia, in the fine print inside, it was still Spider-Man. This one is the first one that is actually, and so that got canceled and rebooted to, I believe, to this, but this has actually got Peter Parker in the name of the book inside. So. And this came out around about the time that the other, like Captain America and Avengers and all that, were coming out of the Heroes Reborn, even though Spider-Man had never been a part of that. But while we're you know, revitalizing everything, Amazing had restarted at #1, so kind of doing all that at the same time. Big changes. So that's #1. John Romita Jr., Howard Mackie. We've got issue 4. The hottest new X-Man, Marrow. Yeah, when was the last time you saw Marrow? There. Issue 5. There. Issue 8. Got some Blade. Issue 9. Some Venom. Issue 12. Sinister 6. Basically 6 of Spider-Man's villains banding together to kick his ass. Carnage, for all you Carnage fans. Issue 16, Venom versus Sandman. Venom looking a little thin there. chunk right here. She's 17, fighting Kraven. I believe this would be the son of the original Kraven. The original Kraven having died in the Soul of the Hunter thing. Issue 24, Spider-Man gets wrapped up in maximum security, so the aliens of the universe decide that Earth would be a good place to just dump their criminals. So the Earth heroes have to deal with all these alien criminals who have been suddenly deposited on the planet. Alright, then we get issue 25. Turn of more Green Goblin. Return of the Green Goblin. There. 32. Spidey not doing so well. Chris Buckingham. The art. Really cool. Issue cover on here on 33. Flashback to when Pete was young and Uncle Ben taking him to a game. Issue 40. There. Issue 41. Doc Ock action going on. 48. Get out of my head. 49. Wow, even I look at some of this stuff and I'm like, wow, I totally don't remember what the heck was going on. Through 57, which is the final issue, covered by, I always forget his first name, Sam Keith? Right there. For some reason, they had much later published an additional issue, 158, which was like a legacy, used the legacy numbering. Make sure that that's 155. Yeah, this is 156.1. So then, I don't know exactly where 156 is supposed to come from. But, right there. Alright, but then the series had some annuals. So the 1998 annuals were weird. They weren't completely, totally associated with a series. They were, in some cases, they had two. They were all team ups, and sometimes the second person had their own series. But so generally speaking, what I do is I associate it with whoever is mentioned on the cover first, and sometimes you have to kind of ignore the indicia to make that make sense. So, so this one was Peter Parker, Spider-Man, which of course is why it's here, and Elektra together. 98 annual through the 2001 annual. There, it's kind of a random Spider-Man story. There. Alright, then we get to the OG, somewhat. So, Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, started off as just Spectacular Spider-Man in the indicia, and it ran for, I believe if I'm right, 48 issues that way. but they'd been putting Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, on the cover. That's a bit like what they did with Uncanny X-Men, where it was Uncanny X-Men on the cover for a long time before it ever became Uncanny X-Men officially. So here in the P's, we only have from where it began as Peter Parker, and we also, at some point, it turns back into just Spectacular Spider-Man. So, being a little anal here, sorry. But Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, 49. Spider-Man versus the Smuggler. There. Through 51. Deb Whitman. Mysterio. Frank Miller, I think. Getting a Miller vibe there. '52, White Tiger. For those of you who have seen the Daredevil Born Again series on Disney Plus, this will look familiar, somewhat. Again, more Frank Miller. You Miller fans. 55 versus Nitro, the Exploding Man. Nitro's power is he blows up, but he gets better afterwards. 55. 56, which is a book that people pay a little bit more for lately. Don't know why. There's not a key, but it does have this cool jack-o'-lantern villain story in it. Miller cover. 57. Jonah Jameson getting all riled up versus Killer Shrike, if I recognize the arm blades correctly. Issue 60. More Frank Miller cover there. Good stuff. Classic Frank Miller. Issue 61. Moonstone. Moonstone, many people will recognize if you're a Thunderbolts comic reader. Some Moonstone from there. '63. Molten Man is back. This is the half brother of Liz Allen. Liz Allen being one of Peter's earliest love interests in comics. She was actually in the first Tom Holland movie, but this Liz Allen is not the granddaughter of the Vulture or whatever, or the daughter of the Vulture. But there you go. And that brings us to issue 64. Peter Parker meets Cloak and Dagger. This is their first appearance. They are a pair of runaways in New York City who get injected with experimental drugs, and they end up with superpowers, and they kind of can't live without, Cloak can't live without Dagger giving him some of his light, her light. There's a ongoing forever will they, won't they. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's a little fuzzy on how old they are. But they went on to have their own series. They've had their own series a couple of times. And they were mutants for a while, and then I think they're kind of not mutants anymore. Sort of like the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. So they had their own TV show for a while. So there you go. Cloak and Dagger. Sort of had very convenient powers given the phrase that we have in the English language. That's not the first time that's happened. 65 there versus Craven. Through 68. Spider-Man versus the Robot Master. We get to 69, dude. Which is the return of Cloak and Dagger. They were very popular, and thus they brought them back. This is actually one of my older books that I had, so I kind of picked up on Cloak and Dagger on their second appearance or something. So 69 through 73. A battle of Dr. Octopus and the Owl with Spider-Man caught in the middle. So good stuff, exciting stuff. And what is it with guys with this hair and blades? But anyway, there you go. And that is all for this box. Okay, so that was box 120. Next time, of course, we will do box 121. We will continue to make our way through Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, and then we will get into some Phantom things, some Phoenix, some Planet, some Plastic, including Plastic Man. We will get into the Power Company, Power Factor, if you've ever heard of that, and end up with some Power Girl. So it's going to be a good time. Lots of neat stuff in there. I hope you'll be here. Until then, have a great day.